June 10, 323 BC. In the palace of Nebuchadnezzar II, the greatest conqueror in human history lies dying at age 32. Imagine standing in that torchlit chamber in Babylon, watching Alexander the Great struggle for each breath, his empire stretching from Greece to India, the largest the world has ever seen. His generals crowd around, their faces masks of desperation. Outside, the entire city holds its breath. What they don't know, what history doesn't record, is that Alexander survives this night. He opens his eyes, he recovers, and the world as we know it is about to be rewritten. Because in our timeline, Alexander's death fractured his empire into warring pieces within hours. His generals tore apart everything he built. But what if the fever broke? What if the mysterious illness that killed him simply faded? Today, we explore an alternate history so profound, so world-changing, that our modern civilization would be unrecognizable. This is the story of an empire that never fell. To understand what we lost when Alexander died, you must first grasp the magnitude of what he achieved in just 12 years. From the moment he crossed into Asia Minor in 334 BC, he never lost a single battle. Not one. At Issus, he shattered a Persian army 5 times larger than his own. At Gaugamela, he crushed the great King Darius III with tactical genius that military academies still study today. By age 30, Alexander commanded an empire of 5 million square kilometers. Greek culture merged with Persian, Egyptian, and Indian civilizations. He founded over 20 cities, most named Alexandria, creating networks of trade and knowledge exchange unprecedented in human history. His tutor, Aristotle, had filled his mind with philosophy, science, and the dream of a unified world. Alexander wasn't just a conqueror, he was an architect of cultural fusion. His armies included Greeks, Macedonians, Persians, and countless other peoples, all united under one vision. He married Roxana, a Bactrian princess, and encouraged his soldiers to marry local women, creating a new hybrid society. But on that June night in Babylon, it all hung by a thread. In our alternate timeline, Alexander's fever peaks on June 11th and then breaks. Modern historians debate endlessly what killed him in our reality: malaria, typhoid, poisoning, or even West Nile virus. But here, whatever attacked his body loses the battle. By June 15th, he's sitting up. By July, he's walking the palace gardens. The Macedonians who had begun dividing his empire in whispered conversations suddenly fall silent. The generals who had already started positioning themselves for civil war now bow before their recovering king. Alexander, weakened but alive, summons his commanders. He has stared into the abyss, felt death's cold hand, and emerged with a revelation. At 32, he realizes he has tried to conquer too fast. His empire is vast but unstable, held together by his personality alone. The near-death experience transforms him. For the first time in his life, Alexander stops thinking about the next conquest and starts thinking about the next century. He begins the most ambitious project of his life, not expanding his empire, but making it eternal. He has, unknowingly, just changed the course of human civilization for the next 2,000 years. From 323 to 310 BC, Alexander does something no conqueror before him ever attempted. He builds institutions. In our timeline, his empire collapsed because it depended entirely on him. But now, Alexander has 13 years to create something permanent. He establishes a unified legal code blending Greek and Persian law. He creates a professional civil service, training administrators from every corner of his empire. He standardizes currency across 3 continents, making trade flow like never before. The Library of Alexandria, which in our timeline was founded by his general Ptolemy, becomes Alexander's personal obsession. He makes it a center not just for Greek learning, but for knowledge from every culture he conquered. Scholars from India bring mathematical concepts, including early forms of zero. Persian astronomers share celestial observations. Egyptian priests contribute medical texts thousands of years old. But Alexander's most revolutionary act is religious tolerance. Rather than imposing Greek gods on conquered peoples, he declares all deities equal under a philosophical concept, borrowed from Aristotle. The divine encompasses all. This single policy prevents countless rebellions and creates genuine loyalty across his multi-ethnic empire. In 310 BC, Roxana gives Alexander not one but 3 healthy sons. This solves the catastrophic succession crisis that destroyed his empire in our timeline. Alexander, now 46 and seasoned by age, does what his own father Philip failed to do. He prepares his heirs properly. His eldest son receives tutoring from the greatest minds in the empire, but Alexander goes further. He creates a council system where power is shared among representatives from Macedonia, Persia, Egypt, and the eastern provinces. This proto-parliamentary system is revolutionary. It ensures that when he dies, the empire won't fracture along ethnic lines. His generals, now aging alongside him, have too much invested in stability to risk civil war. Ptolemy governs Egypt not as an independent king, but as Alexander's appointed satrap, knowing his own children's futures depend on the empire's unity. Seleucus administers the eastern territories with the same understanding. What emerges is something history has never seen: a genuine multi-ethnic superstate with institutions stronger than any single personality. The Pax Alexandrina begins. By 300 BC, something extraordinary happens. With peace enforced across 3 continents, with trade routes protected from Greece to India, with scholars freely exchanging ideas, human knowledge accelerates at an unprecedented rate. In our timeline, Greek science eventually stagnated under Roman rule. But in Alexander's unified empire, it explodes. Archimedes, born in Syracuse, now has access to Indian mathematics and Babylonian astronomy. The concept of zero reaches Greece centuries earlier. Greek geometry combines with Persian algebra. The result? Calculations that would have been impossible before become routine. Engineers design irrigation systems that turn marginal lands productive. Architects create structures that blend the best of Greek, Persian, and Egyptian techniques. Medicine advances as Greek physicians learn from Indian surgical techniques and Chinese herbal knowledge brought along the Silk Road. Alexander himself, now in his 50s, funds expeditions to map the known world. Ships sail around Africa, reaching the Atlantic coast. Others push into the Indian Ocean. The world is shrinking, knowledge expanding. In our timeline, this level of scientific collaboration wouldn't occur until the Islamic Golden Age, centuries later. Alexander turned 60 in 296 BC, an old man by ancient standards but still sharp of mind. He walks with a limp from old battle wounds, his hair and beard white as Macedonian snow. Yet he remains beloved. His empire has known peace for a generation now. Children born after his recovery have never known war. The cities he founded have grown into metropolises where Greek, Persian, Egyptian, and Indian cultures blend seamlessly. A merchant can travel from Athens to the Indus speaking a common trade language, using common currency, protected by common law. But Alexander faces a final challenge. He knows death comes for everyone eventually, and this time there will be no miraculous recovery. He spends his final years writing his memoirs, not as propaganda, but as a manual for governance. He admits his early mistakes, the unnecessary destruction of Thebes, the cruel executions of those who opposed him. He wants his successors to learn from his errors. In 293 BC, at age 63, Alexander finally succumbs to old age, surrounded by his sons and grandchildren. But this time, the empire does not fall. Alexander's death in 293 BC triggers not war but an orderly succession. His eldest son, Alexander IV, takes the throne with the council's unanimous support. The governmental systems his father built function exactly as designed. Over the next centuries, the empire evolves into something resembling a federation, with local autonomy under central coordination. But here's where history truly diverges. Without the fragmentation into Hellenistic kingdoms, without the eventual Roman conquest, without the Dark Ages that followed Rome's fall, human progress follows a completely different trajectory. The scientific knowledge accumulated in Alexander's empire never gets lost. Technology advances steadily. By what we would call 100 AD, this alternate world has developed steam power, not through industrial revolution, but through gradual refinement of Greek mechanical knowledge combined with Eastern metallurgy. Greek democracy, preserved and expanded under Alexander's council system, spreads as a model of governance. The world becomes interconnected centuries earlier than in our timeline. Ideas, diseases, and innovations spread rapidly across Eurasia. Christianity, if it emerges at all, does so in a completely different context. Modern historians analyzing this alternate timeline point to several critical factors that made Alexander's survival so transformative. First, the preservation of institutional knowledge. In our timeline, countless libraries were destroyed, scientific texts lost forever during centuries of warfare. Here, knowledge accumulates without interruption. Second, the prevention of the Roman Empire's totalitarian model. Rome's genius was military organization, but it crushed earlier Greek democratic experiments. Alexander's system, while imperfect, maintained a balance between central authority and local governance that could have evolved into something resembling modern federalism. 17 centuries early. Third, cultural synthesis. The forced mixing of Greek, Persian, Indian, and Egyptian civilizations created a cosmopolitan worldview centuries ahead of its time. Religious wars that plagued our timeline might never occur in a world where tolerance was policy from the start. But perhaps most importantly, Alexander's survival meant 30 additional years of peace during humanity's most innovative period. Those 30 years compound over centuries into a completely different world. So what did humanity lose when Alexander died at 32 in Babylon that June night? Perhaps everything, perhaps nothing. We'll never know if this alternate history would have truly unfolded this way. Maybe Alexander's empire would have collapsed anyway, just delayed by a generation. Maybe the human tendency toward tribalism and war would have reasserted itself regardless of institutions. Or maybe we lost a world where human progress accelerated by centuries, where knowledge was never lost, where different cultures learned to genuinely cooperate rather than merely coexist. A world where the scientific method emerged from Greek rationalism combined with Eastern empiricism, where democracy evolved naturally rather than through bloody revolutions, where religious tolerance was the foundation rather than a hard-won achievement. Alexander's fever broke in our timeline, and the world we know emerged from the chaos that followed. But in that alternate June night in Babylon, in that other possible history, Alexander opened his eyes, took a breath, and changed everything. The question isn't whether this alternate history would have been better. The question is, what other turning points in history hang on such fragile threads? What empires never born? What knowledge never discovered? What worlds did we lose in the fever dreams of dying kings?